We've just finished June, which means there's only one thing to do, and that is the mid-year book tag. Hello, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing amazing. So for today's video, we are going to be doing the mid-year book tag. So I did actually get these questions from Freya Valerio. I will pop Freya's channel down below along with the questions, but I think without further ado, let's just crack on. I feel like I've had a pretty solid start to the year. I haven't had too many 5 stars. I think I've only had 2. I don't give 5 stars out kind of willy-nilly. If a book has to be like impeccable really for me to give out a 5 stars, so that's not too alarming for me, and I think 2 5 stars for the year, quite legit for me. I think that's around about right, but I feel like I've only had a couple of books that have just not hit the mark, so I just hope the last 6 months of the year is the same as the first 6 months of the year, if not better. So the first question is the best book you've read in 2026 so far, and this is hands down easy peasy. As I said, I've only had 2 5 stars. One of them was The Lamb by Lucy Rose, and the other one was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Nothing has topped this. I have a feeling nothing will top this for this year, because I could not fault this book. Like The Lamb by Lucy Rose, even though it was a 5-star read, there was a few bits that I kind of thought, I don't know about that, or I had questions, etc. This, no notes, absolutely perfection. So for this one, we've got Joan, and she is I believe, a science teacher. And one day there's an ad to say that NASA are recruiting female astronauts. So lo and behold, Joan applies and she actually gets in, but along the way, it's just not as simple as that. So we are going through Joan's journey of, you know, her being at the NASA training camp, the friends she makes, the relationship she makes, the actual mission that happens in this book. We get glances of that, and honestly, it's just incredible. I've not come across a bad book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Well, I was absolutely bawling my eyes out at the end. Like, I think I've actually done a vlog where I was reading this. You go through all the emotions. You are happy, you are sad, you are worried, you're related. So many emotions in this little book, and it is quite little. Look, it is pretty tiny, but as well, I loved the writing. I personally don't annotate books, but if I did, this would be absolutely filled up with tabs, underlines, and I just loved all the references to kind of the stars and space and the moon. I will 100% be rereading this book. Like, that is why it's also a 5 stars. I could easily reread this book and have the same feeling. I just think, of course, the ending, it won't hit as hard as what it did the first time. So absolutely a worthy winner of the best book of 2026 so far. The next question is the worst book you've read in 2026 so far. And I don't actually have my copy anymore because I donated it to my cousin because I think she would enjoy it a lot more. And that is Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. Now, I don't think this will come as a surprise. If you've watched the channel for quite some time, you will know that me and Tessa, we don't really get on. You know, I don't really enjoy Tessa Bailey's books, and that's absolutely fine because so many people do. But this, yeah, Unfortunately Yours was kind of like the final straw, and I will not be purchasing any more Tessa Bailey books. So for this one, obviously it's a romance book. I just found like our female main character wasn't really likable. Our main man character wasn't very likable. He was very arrogant, in my opinion. You know, they were supposed to be enemies to lovers, but actually they're just not. Like, the reason for them being enemies to lovers is the most stupidest reason I've ever read in a book. And even though they hate each other, apparently they can't stop thinking about each other and flirting with each other. And I know, I do know that's like the enemies to lovers trope, but to me, I like my enemies like real enemies, you know, like true enemies to lovers. The plot was just silly. There was quite a lot of smut, and again, I'm not like the biggest lover of smut. If it's in there for a purpose, I get it, but it's just, I feel like the smut in quite a few of Tessa Bailey's book is just there to be there and maybe to catch a certain audience, which is absolutely fine. I know so many people love just reading all smut, no plot, but unfortunately, pun intended, it's not for me. So yeah, so far, that has definitely been the worst book that I've read in 2026. Also falling very closely behind it, but I've not spoken about this one yet because this was in my June TBR, and that was Private Rites by Julia Armfield. I'm not going to go in too much depth about this one just because it will be in my June wrap up, but essentially not much happened in this book. I wasn't engaged, I was quite bored for a lot of it. Sounds really mean, and I don't mean it to come across in a wrong way, but I don't really see the point of this book. And I think maybe I'm just not intelligent enough to understand it. I don't know. I was very bored throughout. Spoiler alert, this was actually a 2-star read, but I will go on more detail why that is in my June wrap up. So I'm actually gonna bunch the next 2 questions together because it is the best sequel I've read in 2026 and the worst sequel in 2026. So the way that I work is I don't really read new releases and therefore like new sequels to fantasies, etc. And when we say sequel, I'm gonna take that as like a book in a series. But what I did want to do this year was finish the Gold Rush series by Elsie Silver. And that I did do, so I'm quite pleased with myself. The best one was The Front Runner by Elsie Silver, but my worst sequel by far has to be A False Start by Elsie Silver. To be fair, to caveat, I haven't read too many sequels, as I mentioned. Like, I don't really gravitate towards new releases, or I don't binge series back to back, so I think I've only read like 4 sequels this year. Now, The Front Runner, I love The Front Runner so much. Mira and Stefan, I think the reason why I love this is there wasn't a big age gap. I think Elsie Silver loves an age gap romance, which not really for me, so I don't understand why I've got the rest of Elsie Silver's backlist here, but alas, I do. But this was just a normal age gap. It felt like a normal dilemma. It just felt quite adult, and I feel like that shouldn't be so hard to find, but in an Elsie Silver book, it does just fall a little bit childish for me because the FMC just seems so much younger than the male main character. And therefore it creates a barrier for me where it's either too childish, or the dialogue's quite childish, or the dilemma is just so silly. I'm like, why is this happening? The 3rd act breakup, silly. Like, this series has not been great for me, but The Front Runner, it just felt so different to what her other books were like, you know? And I love Stefan. Like, I don't know why we don't talk about Stefan as like, you know, a book boyfriend, like on BookTube or BookTok or on social media. Like, Stefan, he was great. The spice wasn't cringy, and they're big words coming from me. Like, I really did enjoy it. And also the ending, like the ending had me hooked, and yeah, I just love them together as a couple. That sounds really silly because obviously they're just 2 fictional people, but yeah, I absolutely love this one. I was giddy the whole way throughout, and essentially I was actually rooting for them as a couple. So highly recommend The Front Runner. And also, like, if you are reading the Gold Rush Ranch series and you just think this isn't for me, which is a very high possibility, maybe just read The Front Runner because it is so good. On the flip side, the worst sequel I read was A False Start by Elsie Silver. So again, it's kind of the complete opposite of The Front Runner. We have got a massive age gap romance. Our female main character, I just found her actually quite childish. The dialogue she was saying, the situations they were in, like, it wasn't for me, you know? I was cringy. I didn't really like the spice scenes in this. I did actually read this in June, so I will go into more detail in my wrap up. So this may be a mild spoiler of the book, so feel free to like skip ahead a couple of seconds, maybe like 20 seconds. But our female main character is training to become a vet, and our male main character comes in with an injured dog. And basically, instead of treating this injured dog or having her mind and focus on this injured dog, she thinks how attractive our male main character is. And I'm sorry. I'm like, this is what I don't like about fluffy romances and things like this, because that shouldn't be your first fault in the real world. I don't know, maybe that's me being a grumpy prude. And that for me just set the tone for the whole book, and yeah, I didn't like it. I think I rated it 3 stars in the end, so not like terrible, wasn't a 2-star, but by far the worst sequel that I've read, and quite frankly, I'm happy the Gold Rush Ranch series is done and dusted. So the next question is a new release, but one that you haven't read yet. And I feel like this is quite tricky for me because, as I say, I don't really keep on top of new releases. BookTube and BookTok are kind of my means of finding out new releases that are coming out and whatnot. I never do my own research. I know that is really bad as like a book lover, but I just feel like I do get the information elsewhere. But in that sense, I don't kind of rush out, or I don't do like pre-orders. I hardly ever do a pre-order. I feel like this one is going to be quite tricky for me. I guess what I can say for now is The Thorn Queen by Sasha Peyton Smith. I recently read The Rose Bargain, and I believe this one came out in April just gone, so technically a new release, but I recently read The Rose Bargain and I was kind of hooked. It was such a fun, easy read, you know. There was trials in there, there was a trope that I absolutely love. Like everything it just gelled with me, and I sped through that book. And quite frankly, I'm so eager to see how the duology wraps up. I wouldn't say it ended on a cliffhanger, but it did end where I am aching to know what the dynamics might be in the second book. So I'm going to stick with The Fawn Queen by Sasha Peyton Smith. So the next question is the most anticipated new release coming out in the second half of the year. And as mentioned just before in the previous question, I think I'm not going to answer this one just because I don't keep on top of new releases at all. I'm kind of a vibes. I don't read series back to back. Before I start a series, I don't actively see if all the books are out. I just go ahead and read them. So personally for me, I think this is quite a tricky one. I mean, I'm sure there is a book that I'm so excited to come out in the second half of the year, but I just don't think I can commit to an answer. So I'm gonna skip that one, I'm sorry. The next question was the biggest surprise of 2026 so far, and that has to be The Haunting of Moscow House by Olesya Salnikova Gilmore. I literally went into this book thinking I was gonna hate it. I thought this was gonna be a 2-star, purely based on the Goodreads reviews. I think this has a 3.4 Goodreads rating, and I must admit, I judged this way before I went into this book, and surprisingly, I loved it. I think I rated it a 4-star. I think as well, also by the title, you are expecting kind of a spooky, scary book. That's not what this book is, which actually works quite well for me. This is a historical fiction based in Russia, as you can tell by Moscow House, and we are in the eyes of 2 sisters that were kind of aristocratics, but I believe because this is set in the Russian Revolution War, they have to give up their house to kind of the Bolsheviks. And in doing so, it turns out this house might have some secrets of its own and may have a life of its own as well. So because of that, it is a historical fiction. We do get into kind of political thinking. So some people might not want that from a horror book, and I can only assume that is why it's got such a low rating. But for me, it was the perfect balance of gothic but the historical fiction. I was really rooting for the 2 sisters. There is a little bit of a romance going on as well. So this is a very multi-genre bending book, and we actually were exploring Russian folklore, and I'm sorry, I love any book about folklore. I find it so interesting how each country has a different folklore or, you know, myths and legends. Honestly, this is 100% the biggest surprise of the year so far. But if you do love a historical fiction, especially with those gothic vibes, I urge you, please do pick this up. The next question is the biggest disappointment of 2026, and unfortunately I actually read Haunted of Moscow House and this book in the same vlog, but that has to be Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I'm sure you've all heard of this book. They're absolutely raving reviews. I did go in thinking this is going to be a 5-star. Like, this was a very secure 5-star prediction for me. Unfortunately, it did not live up to the hype. I think I rated this 3 stars in the end. I don't know if it's because this is obviously based on kind of Shakespeare's life, and I don't know too much about Shakespeare myself. I've not really read any of his plays. I haven't really watched any of the movie adaptations as well. So I think maybe that's on me for not knowing enough about Shakespeare, but ultimately I just wasn't fully invested in the story. I wasn't fully invested in our characters. I found I guess you could call her our main character, Agnes, who is depicted as Shakespeare's wife. And just to be clear, Shakespeare is never named in this book, so it is just, we are just inferring here, but I mean, it's pretty damn, just by the title alone, it's pretty damn clear it's about Shakespeare. But I just found Agnes a bit plain. I don't know, I wanted more. The whole story, I just felt like I was wanting a little bit more. One thing I will say is Maggie's writing is absolutely incredible. Like, it was quite flowery writing, but you could really feel the setting. I felt like you could really be in the 1500s, you know? Her writing was just so lyrical, so flowery, so stunning. And that is the reason why I would 100% pick up another Maggie O'Farrell book. I haven't yet. I think I actually do have one on my Kindle. I can't remember what it's called. But I mean, I'm definitely not saying no to Maggie as an author. I just think due to the hype of Hamnet and everyone saying it's like 5-star predictions and, you know, literary genius and everything like that, it severely fell flat for me. But I do think maybe I'm the problem here, and you might absolutely love this. So take this with a pinch of salt. But obviously I'm just showcasing my biggest disappointment of the year. So the next question is favourite new author, and that could either be kind of a debut book or a new author to you. So I thought I'm going to do both. I believe The Secret Lives of Murderous Wives is a debut for Elizabeth Arnott. This is actually an ARC edition that was sent to me by Viking Books, so thank you so much. But I love this book so much. I think I rated this like a 4.25, and the writing, the story, everything about this, I was just hooked. And I do think that is a testament to Elizabeth Arnott's writing. So this is about 3 women who have husbands in jail for being a serial killer, I want to say. I'm pretty sure it's a serial killer. So instead of being in the point of view of the serial killers, we are in the point of views of their wives. But not only are we getting a taste of how, you know, this big life event and change, you know, imagine being married to a serial killer, you know, not only are we looking through their eyes how it's affected them, how it's affected their feelings, how it's affected them going into future relationships, etc. But there is also maybe a murder case going on in their little town of Berryview. And these 3 women who have now become friends decide they are going to find out who the culprit is. So I just found overall the premise was fantastic, the writing was fantastic, the storyline, I was hooked the whole way throughout. I actually really engaged with our characters. I wanted them to, you know, have a happy ending and whatnot. So again, debut novel, so it's a new author, and I'll be waiting eagerly to see if Elizabeth Arnott writes another book. And then an author that is actually new to me, but she's had loads of books out, and that is Jessica Joyce. She wrote The Vows. This is a contemporary romance book, and it had all the vibes that I wanted. It was friends to lover, second chance romance. It was an adult dilemma, like the reason why they split up could happen in the real life, you know, which I very appreciated, because a lot of romances, you just think, you know, the reason why they're breaking up is silly, or like one conversation can fix it. Just little things kind of you think about in the book and you just think this could be resolved in one page. But with this, everything felt realistic. I also love the plot of where they were working together for a wedding, and that kind of brought them together. In terms of the plot, I absolutely loved everything about it. Her writing wasn't cringy. I 100% will be picking up another Jessica Joyce book. Okay, so the next question is newest fictional crush. And I think I might ruffle some feathers here. Now, let me just say, I have not read the sequel to this book yet, and apparently the sequel will have me changing my mind, but it is going to be Callum from The Wolf King. I know, so many of you are screaming at me saying, what the hell, what are you on about? But let me just say, I am more of a golden retriever person than the dark and broody and mysterious. A lot of people from the Wolf King series absolutely love and fell for Blake, you know? And I get that, I can see it. But me, I liked Callum. I'm so sorry, I am being lazy. I just didn't want to get this out from the bottom of the pile, so I have put an overlay. But I was rooting for Callum the whole time in that book. Now, I have a feeling Callum's going to do something very naughty in the second book, because everyone's like, oh, you're going to love Blake and, you know, the Night Prince, you're going to love Blake, blah, blah, blah. And I'm a bit like, I don't know. But on that note, the Wolf King anyway, the FMC, I think that has to be one of my most hated FMCs ever. I could not stand her. But lo and behold, I absolutely love the book. So I don't know what that says about me. Clearly Callum pulled its way for me to finish that book, but yeah, sorry guys. Has to be Callum from the Wolf King. The next question was a book that made you cry, and I was actually looking through all the books that I read for 2026, and I actually haven't cried too much, which is most probably the reason why I've not given too many 5 stars, because if a book makes me cry, 9 times out of 10 I'm giving that a 5 star. Like, I love a book that makes me sob my heart out. So this one has already been on the list, and that is Atmosphere. As I mentioned before, I absolutely sobbed my little eyes out at the ending of this book, and that's all I'm going to say. I can't give you any reasons why I sobbed, because it, you know, it's going to be spoilers and things like that, but just please read this book. The next question is a book that made you happy, and a little bit like a book that made you cry. I feel like I don't remember a book making me like really elated, you know? I don't know if that's a me problem? Like, am I just realising that I'm actually just like maybe a grumpy cow? I don't know. But one book that made me feel not only happy, but so many emotions, and that was Theo of Golden by Alan Levi. This is about Theo, who is an 80-year-old man, and he goes to this little town of Golden. He steps into this cafe and he sees that there are, I want to say 99, but that could be incorrect. But there are numerous amount of portraits in this cafe, and they're all hand drawn. And he asked the person behind the counter, you know, who are these people? Who's drawn these pictures? Blah, 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 blah. And it turns out the people in these pictures are actually residents of this little town of Golden. So Theo sets out on a little mission to buy these photos and to give them back to their rightful owners. On this journey, Theo meets so many different characters, personality types, people that are going through different scenarios, etc. And to me, it really just solidified that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still make friendships if you seek them. You can still do good in the world if you want to. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, what your circumstances are. I mean, give or take, you are still responsible for your actions and you can still do something to help those around you. And to me, that really did make me smile. And I think anything with the elderly anyway does make me smile. I love reading about old people in books. I know that really weird niche, but it generally just gives me that heartwarming feeling. But don't get me wrong, there are some tough topics being spoken about in this book. There are tough things happening in the book as well. And to be fair, I think a lot of people have actually cried at this book. Me personally, I didn't. I don't know what that says about me, but I did not cry at this book. But at the same time, I really did enjoy it, and one that still sticks with me to this day. So the next question is the most beautiful book that you've purchased or received, and I think I'm gonna have to go with To Bleed a Crystal Bloom and To Snap a Silver Stem, because these are the editions that I bought when I was on holiday in Orlando. I've recently just done my holiday haul, so I'm not going to talk too much about them, but just look at these sprayed edges. Like, that says enough. You've got that gorgeous cover, sprayed edge goes on the top as well, and it's exactly the same for the second book. You've got that gorgeous cover, sprayed edge goes on the top and bottom, and honestly, I do just stare at them sometimes on my shelf and I think, I can't believe I have these editions. But the only problem being is I don't know how I'm gonna get the third book in this series in the same edition. But that's a future Jess problem, I think, because right now I'm just gonna babe in the fact that I have these. And then as an honourable mention, although not even as an honourable mention, this could definitely be more pretty than the books that I've just shown. I don't know, it's a tough decision. I was on the wait list for Fairy Loot, for the adult and the romantasy book, I would say for about a year. And when I was on holiday, I got that email to say, you're off the wait list, please confirm if you wanna join, you know, the subscription. Obviously, I had to say yes. So June was my first book subscription from Fairy Loot, and it did not disappoint. In particular, the adult fantasy, because I'm sorry, look at this. I mean, I have no words, but not only that, look at this sprayed edge. It is absolutely stunning. Goes along the top too. We have got this gorgeous, absolute gorgeous naked cover. Again, on the back. This is giving me, you know, like Disney, Snow White, Cinderella at the beginning, and they've always got that fairy tale book. This is what this is giving me. And then we have got these gorgeous end papers, and they're a bit foily as well. And then that is the one on the back too. It's just stunning. So again, this has to go under this question. And the last question is, what books do you have to get by the end of the year? So again, this is quite a tricky one for me, because I feel like every book I come across, I say, I have to read that soon, I have to read that soon, and I never do. But one book I can absolutely commit to is Strange Pictures by Uketsu. Now, when I say I've been wanting to read this for the longest time, my husband recently bought it for me, and I'm making this a priority for spooky season. I do have Strange Buildings, I want to say, so I will, if I love this, I will need to get Strange Houses and read that one before Strange Buildings. But I've heard so much about this book, and quite frankly, I need to know all the hype around it. It's also a book with like illustrations, like it does look a bit creepy. And I think we are also trying to guess the mystery that's happening in this book. Like, you are a part of the story, I believe. So this is a very anticipated read for me. One I will definitely get in around like October. I do want to maybe plant this on my October TBR. So I would definitely have to say Strange Pictures. I do also have my own little kind of bookish goals, and that is to finish 2 series, and that was Akatar and I believe Caraval. So again, I would like to read those books just so I can tick off, you know, my kind of bookish goals for the year. And I think as well, I would quite like to read another Kristin Hannah book. So I've got quite a few Kristin Hannahs on my bookshelf that I've not read, but the reason why I've not read them, and this is so stupid, and I would love to know if anyone else has the same reaction, but Kristin Hannah is my favourite author. You know, so far every single book that I've read of hers has been a 5-star or a 4.5. You know, she can do no wrong in my eyes, and therefore I don't want to read her books because I don't want to lose that feeling of not having that 5-star feeling, or just a book that you know that you're going to fall in love with. Like, does that make sense? And the thing is, she has a whole backlist of novels that she has written. Like, she has been writing for years, and I would say there is literally about 10 books that I need to pick up of Kristin Hannah's for her earlier works. Granted, I don't believe her earlier works are going to be as good as like her newer works, you know, because a writer does improve and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't want to finish all of my Kristin Hannah books on my shelf because I'm just scared I won't have another Kristin Hannah that will give me those like 5-star feels. Like, to me, if I know I want a 5-star read, pick up a Kristin Hannah, and I feel like I would get it. Her and Taylor Jenkins Reid do that to me. Like, to be fair, they are the authors that I have had the most 5-star reads. And that is a wrap on all the questions. I'm gonna add my own one in right now, and that is what I'm currently reading. I know, nothing spectacular, you know. You're like, oh my God, how did she come up with that question? But I thought you might want to know. And that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Now, so far, I'm only about 50 pages in, which is actually only like 4 chapters. So far, so good. But the only thing I will say is that you need your full attention to this book. I mean, I actually read a chapter last night, and I woke up this morning, and because I was kind of in the middle, like England in the World Cup was on, so I was like kind of reading it in the halftime bit, and I just wasn't fully focused, and I thought, I've got no idea what actually happened in that chapter. So I reread it this morning, and it made so much more sense to me. I mean, I think we all know what the story of Frankenstein is, but at the same time, I want to know like those nooks and crannies and what makes Frankenstein an absolute banger of a classic. So yeah, I will keep you posted, and hopefully that will also be in my June wrap up. But now, as that's all the questions done, I am going to leave this video here. I really hoped you enjoyed it. I would love to know if you have any comments. Have you read any of these books? Do you agree with any of the books that I've put for these questions? Honestly, I would love to know all your thoughts. If you did find yourself enjoying this one, it would mean so much to me if you could like and subscribe. I would absolutely love to have you and talk all things books. But that's it for this video, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.